Diane Ellison Wade was 34 years old when her husband sat down at the dinner table she had set, ate the food she had cooked, and looked her in the eye in front of her own sister and called her a liar. Not quietly, not with guilt, with confidence, the kind that only comes from a man who believes he has already won. Troy told her she was paranoid, that her insecurities were the problem, that he was tired of defending her to people. He said it like a verdict, like she was already dismissed. What Troy did not know was that 48 hours earlier, Diane had opened their home security system, the one he had insisted they install, and watched 4 minutes of footage that made every suspicion she had ever quietly stored make perfect sense. He had no idea she had already downloaded the file, made a copy, said nothing. Diane reached across the table, opened her laptop, and turned the screen toward him, and the man who had just called her a liar in her own home went completely silent. What came next would cost Troy everything he thought he was walking away with, but in that moment, Diane simply closed the laptop and waited. Before we dive in, comment where you're watching from today, and if stories like this speak to you, hit subscribe, because tomorrow's story is even more intense. The kitchen was quiet at 5:47 a.m. Diane liked it that way. She sat at the round oak table near the window, both hands wrapped around a mug of dark roast, laptop open, the blue light of the screen cutting through the gray of the early morning. Outside, the neighborhood was still asleep. No cars, no voices, just the low hum of the refrigerator and the occasional tick of the house settling into itself. She had been up since 5. She was always up since 5. Her logistics call was at 7, and she had learned years ago that the men on her team showed up to those calls assuming the work had already been done. Sometimes it had been, sometimes by her. They would nod along at the numbers she presented, occasionally interrupt to restate what she had just said, and then take the credit in the follow-up email. She had learned to document everything. She sent herself summaries before the calls started. Timestamps didn't lie. She scrolled through the overnight freight manifest, her eyes moving in that steady, unhurried way they always did when she was reading something that mattered. Column by column, line by line. She found it at 6:12 a.m. A routing allocation error, Southeast Regional Distribution. Somebody had coded a bulk transfer through a Memphis hub that should have gone direct to the Atlanta depot, and the detour was going to cost the company somewhere between $80,000 and $90,000 in carrier surcharges if nobody caught it before the shipment locked at 8 a.m. She caught it. She pulled up the correction form, documented the error with the timestamp and the original input code, and sent it to the logistics director with a brief, clear note. 3 sentences. No drama. The problem, the cost, the fix. Then she closed that window and moved on to the next item on her list. Marcus would mention it on the call. He would say we caught something. Kevin would nod like he already knew. She would let them. The director had her email. That was enough. Troy came home at 7:42 that evening. Diane heard the garage door before she heard his key in the lock. She was standing at the stove, finishing the last of the rice, when he came through the kitchen door with his jacket over one arm and his phone in his hand, face down, the way it always was now. "Smells good," he said. He kissed her on the cheek. His lips were warm, and he let them linger a half-second longer than usual, and something in her registered that without letting it show on her face. "How was your day?" she asked. "Long." He set his jacket over the back of a chair, not hung up, just draped, and loosened his tie. "The Buckhead proposal is killing me. Harmon keeps moving the goalposts." She made a sound of sympathy and turned back to the stove. He sat down. He poured himself a glass of water. He scrolled through his phone with it face toward him, tilted at an angle she couldn't read, and then set it face down on the table again. They ate dinner. He talked about Harmon. He talked about the proposal. He talked about a story one of the guys at the office had told, something about a parking garage and a golf cart, and he laughed at his own punchline. She smiled. She asked the right questions at the right moments. She had been doing this long enough to know the rhythm of it. At some point he glanced across the table and said, "You look nice, by the way. Did you do something different with your hair?" She had not done anything different with her hair. "No," she said simply. He nodded like she had confirmed something wonderful. "It looks good. You should wear it like that more often." She took a sip of water. After dinner, he disappeared upstairs to change. She cleaned up the kitchen, and when she went to move his jacket to the hook by the door, she noticed the gym bag sitting just inside the laundry room. Black, Nike, new from the look of it, no scuffs on the base, the zipper pull still stiff. He already had a gym bag. Gray, worn soft at the handles from 4 years of use. It was on the shelf above the washer, right where it always was. She looked at the new one for a moment. Then she hung up his jacket and went upstairs. That night, Diane lay on her side of the bed and stared at the ceiling. Troy was asleep beside her. She could tell by the steadiness of his breathing, deep and even, the sleep of someone with nothing unresolved. He had always slept easily. It was something she used to admire about him. The room was dark. The ceiling fan turned in slow circles above them. She thought about the gym bag. She thought about the Thursdays. She thought about the phone, face down on every surface he set it on, like a small habit he believed she hadn't noticed. She was not panicking. She was not spiraling or catastrophizing or jumping to conclusions the way he sometimes suggested she did, in that gentle, patient tone that made it sound like concern. She was paying attention. She had always been paying attention. The notification came at 6:03 a.m. Diane was already at the table. Same seat, same mug. The coffee was fresh and the laptop was open, and she was halfway through her morning inbox when her phone buzzed against the wood with a small, flat sound. Smart home alert. Side entry camera. Motion detected. Thursday, 2:04 a.m. She looked at it for a moment. Thursday had been 4 days ago. The smart home system had been Troy's idea. 6 months back, after a break-in 2 streets over, he had come home fired up about it, showed her the brochure, walked her through the camera placement, insisted on the side door coverage because that was the entry most hidden from the street. She had agreed. It made sense. They had set up the shared cloud archive together, sitting side by side at this same table, and she had not thought about it much since. She picked up her phone and opened the app. The archive loaded slowly. A gray bar crossed the screen, filled, and then the thumbnail appeared. A still frame, time-stamped, the concrete of the side entry pale under the motion sensor light. She pressed play. The footage was clear. Not perfect. The image had that slightly washed-out quality of night vision recording, everything reduced to silver and shadow. But clear enough. Clear enough to see the headlights of a car she didn't recognize pulling to the edge of the driveway. A dark sedan. Not Troy's. She had never seen it before. Troy got out of the passenger side. He was wearing the charcoal blazer he'd left in that Tuesday morning. She recognized the cut of it, the way it sat on his shoulders. Then the driver's door opened, and a woman stepped out. Young, dressed for an evening out, heels, a coat belted at the waist, hair pulled up. She walked around the front of the car toward Troy, and the two of them stood together at the side door. Close, not touching but not touching either. The space between them, the kind of space that had already been closed many times before. 4 minutes. Diane watched them for 4 minutes before Troy went inside and the woman got back in her car and drove away. She watched it again. Then a third time. The third time she watched his face. The camera angle caught it for just a second as he turned toward the door. The ease on it. The total, unguarded ease of a man who believed himself to be unseen. She downloaded the file without thinking about it. Her hands moved the way they moved at work when something needed to be captured before it disappeared. Quickly, cleanly, without hesitation. She saved it to the phone. She saved it to the cloud. Then she picked up her phone and called her sister. It rang twice. "Hello?" Jada's voice was thick with sleep. "Come over," Diane said. A pause. "Di, it's 6 in the—" "Come over, Jada." She hung up. Jada arrived 40 minutes later in a sweatshirt and slides, her hair wrapped, a travel mug in her hand. She let herself in with her spare key and found Diane at the kitchen table exactly as she'd been left. Laptop open, coffee half finished, both hands flat on the table. "What's going on?" Jada asked, pulling out the chair across from her. Diane turned the laptop around. She pressed play and said nothing. Jada watched the screen. Diane watched Jada. She saw the moment Jada understood. It moved across her face like weather, fast and dark. Her jaw tightened. Her hand, still wrapped around the travel mug, went white at the knuckles. "Who is she?" Jada said. It wasn't a question. It was the beginning of something she was trying to hold back. Diane didn't answer. Jada watched the rest of the clip in silence. When it ended, she put the travel mug down on the table with a careful, deliberate click, the sound of someone choosing not to throw it. "Diane," her voice cracked on the second syllable. "I know," Diane said. "He brought her here." "I know." "To your house." "Jada." Diane's voice was low and even. "I know." Jada pressed both hands over her mouth. Her eyes were bright and sharp, and the look in them was not grief. It was fury. The clean, focused kind that comes from loving someone and watching them be wronged so plainly that there is nothing to interpret, nothing to explain away, nothing to do but feel it hit. Diane felt none of that. Not yet. What she felt was quieter and colder, a door closing somewhere inside her chest, soft and final. After Jada stepped outside to get air, Diane plugged a small personal drive into the side of the laptop. She copied the file a second time, watched the progress bar fill, ejected the drive, and held it in her palm for a moment, small enough to disappear into a coat pocket, solid enough to matter. She put it in the front zipper of her work bag. Then she closed the laptop, set both hands flat on the table, and sat very still in the quiet kitchen. She did not cry. She began to think. Troy came home at 6:47 p.m. Diane heard the garage door first, then his key in the side entry, the same door from the footage. The sound of it used to be ordinary. Now it landed differently. He walked into the kitchen with his jacket over one arm and his phone in his other hand, already smiling. He saw Jada at the table and his smile widened like he'd won something. "Jada," he set his jacket over the back of a chair. "Didn't know you were coming by." Jada picked up her glass of water and looked at the wall. If Troy noticed the flatness in her voice, he didn't show it. He set his phone on the counter, face down, same as always, and washed his hands at the sink. Then he pulled out his chair and sat down and reached for the pan Diane had left in the center of the table. He served himself. He ate. Diane sat across from him. Her plate was mostly untouched. She kept her hands in her lap and her face arranged into something neutral, and she watched him eat the food she had made in the kitchen, where he had stood 4 nights ago with another woman. He talked about his day. A deal that was close to closing, a colleague who had fumbled a client call. He talked the way he always did at the end of the day, easy and self-assured, filling the room with the sound of himself. Then he set his fork down. "My mom called me today," he said. Diane looked at him. "She said you seemed off at the cookout last weekend. Tense." He reached for his glass. "She said some people were asking her questions. About us." He took a drink and set the glass down with a small, definitive click. "She didn't know what to tell them." The kitchen was very quiet. Troy leaned back in his chair and looked at Diane directly. Not the way a man looks at his wife, the way a man looks at a problem he has decided to solve. "I'm tired of it," he said. "I'm tired of defending you to people." His voice was level and sure, not angry, something worse than angry. Certain. "You've been telling everyone I'm doing something wrong, and you're a liar, Diane. That's what you are." He said it plainly, the way you'd state a fact about the weather. "You make things up because your insecurities are the problem, not me." He picked his fork back up. From the other side of the table, Jada went completely still. Diane did not move, did not flinch, did not raise her voice or her eyes or a single finger. She reached across the table and pulled the laptop toward her. She opened it. She found the file. She had left it ready, the way she left everything she needed ready, and she turned the screen around to face him. She pressed play. The footage filled the screen, the pale concrete of the side entry, the unfamiliar car pulling into the driveway, Troy climbing out of the passenger seat in his charcoal blazer, the woman stepping out after him, the two of them standing together in that narrow pool of motion sensor light, close and unhurried, for 4 minutes. Troy's fork stopped moving. He stared at the screen, and the color left his face the way water leaves a glass, steadily, all at once. His jaw was slightly open. His hand was still raised, fork still in it, suspended between the plate and his mouth. He did not say anything. The footage ran to its end. The screen went still on the final frame, the woman's coat, the edge of his blazer, the closed side door. Diane reached over and closed the laptop. The sound it made was small and soft, like a period at the end of a sentence. She looked at Troy. He was not looking at her. He was looking at the closed laptop like it might open again and show him something different. "I'd like you to leave for tonight," Diane said. Her voice was the same voice she had used all evening, calm, even, unhurried. The voice of someone who had already decided the important things and was now simply finishing the conversation. Troy put his fork down. He pushed his chair back. He picked up his jacket from the other chair, and he picked up his phone from the counter, and he walked out of the kitchen without a word. The side entry opened and closed, then the garage door. Then nothing. Jada let out a breath. Diane did not. The two of them sat at the kitchen table in the silence he had left behind. The food was still on the plates. The overhead light was still on. Everything in the kitchen was exactly where it had been 10 minutes ago, and none of it looked the same. Jada reached across the table and covered Diane's hand with hers. Diane let her. They sat there together, not speaking, in the house that still had both their names on the mortgage, while the night pressed in quiet against every window. Diane woke at 5:14 a.m. The bedroom was dark and still. For one quiet second, before full consciousness arrived, everything felt normal. Then it didn't. She got up without reaching for her phone. She moved carefully, out of habit, even now, even alone, and went downstairs in her socks and her robe. Jada was already in the kitchen. She had slept in the guest room and come down before Diane, which meant she had probably not slept much either. She was standing at the counter in an oversized t-shirt, waiting on the coffee maker, her arms crossed loosely over her chest. She looked up when Diane came in. Neither of them said good morning. Jada got down a second mug without being asked. They sat across from each other at the table, same chairs as last night, same overhead light, now dimmed by the gray morning coming in through the window above the sink. Jada wrapped both hands around her mug. Diane did the same. The coffee was hot and strong and real, and for a little while, they just drank it. Outside, a car moved slowly down the street. Somewhere down the block, a dog barked twice and stopped. Jada said, "How are you feeling?" Diane thought about it honestly. "Clear," she said. Jada looked at her. "Not..." She stopped, started again. "You're allowed to be upset, Dee." "I know." Diane set her mug down on the table. "I'm also allowed to be smart about it." Jada was quiet for a moment. Then she nodded, slowly, like she was accepting something she didn't entirely like. "So what are you going to do?" "Nothing loud," Diane said. "Nothing public. Nothing that lets him tell people I fell apart." She looked at her sister evenly. "I'm going to be methodical. I'm going to understand exactly where I stand before I move an inch." Jada stared into her mug. "And then?" "And then I'll move." She called Ray at 7:30. He picked up on the second ring, the way he always did, like he had been halfway expecting the call. Diane had known Ray Ford for 11 years. They had worked together before he went back for his law degree, sitting in adjacent cubicles at a supply chain firm downtown, trading bad vending machine coffee and good professional advice. She trusted him the way you trust someone you have watched do hard things with integrity. She told him everything in order: the footage, Troy's phone behavior, the late Thursdays, the confrontation at the table. She kept her voice steady and factual. She did not editorialize. She gave him the information the way she would present findings at work. When she finished, Ray was silent for 3 seconds. Then he said, "Okay." The word was quiet and tight, like it was doing a lot of work. "Tell me what to do," Diane said. "Document everything you have right now." His voice shifted into the register she recognized, focused, professional, no wasted words. "The footage, timestamps, all of it. Back it up somewhere only you can access. Don't move money, don't close anything, don't touch any joint accounts, and do not tell Troy what you're planning. Nothing." "I wasn't going to." "I know." A pause. "How are you?" "Working on it." He made a sound, not quite a laugh, not quite a sigh. "Diane." A brief silence. "There's something I need to tell you, and I want you to hear it before you hear it any other way." Diane went still. "Okay." "Troy called me," Ray said, "about 2 weeks ago. Out of nowhere, very casual, like he was just making conversation." His voice stayed measured, but she could hear what was underneath it. "He asked me how ironclad prenuptial agreements really are, whether they hold up after a long marriage, what the typical outcome looks like when there isn't one." The morning light shifted in the kitchen, quiet and gray and steady. "He was asking about your marriage," Ray said. "He was already working on his exit, Diane, before you knew any of this was happening." Diane sat with that for a moment. She let it land completely, felt the full shape of it. Troy calling Ray with his easy, casual voice, asking his questions, building his runway, coming home to eat her food and compliment her hair and call her a liar in front of her sister, all while the plan was already quietly running in the background. "Did he know you'd tell me?" she asked. "I don't think it occurred to him that I would," Ray said. "That's part of the problem with Troy. He underestimates everyone." "All right," Diane said. "All right?" "I mean, I hear you. I understand." She inhaled slowly. "Help me do this right." "That's why I answered on the second ring," he said. Jada left around 9. She hugged Diane at the door, long and tight and wordless, and Diane let herself receive it fully before stepping back. After the car pulled away, Diane went back inside and sat down at the kitchen table. She opened the laptop. She pulled up a blank document. She did not write a letter. She did not write a message to Troy or to anyone. She began to type a list. November 3rd. The first Thursday he was late. The gym bag, the phone face down on the counter, the compliment about her hair that sounded like guilt. She kept typing. The statements were stored in a shared folder Troy had set up years ago, organized by month, easy to access. He had never thought to remove her name from the account. Diane started with 6 months back. Every morning that week, she was at the kitchen table by 5:30, coffee made, laptop open, the house quiet and still around her. She moved through the statements the way she moved through logistics audits at work, line by line, nothing skipped, nothing assumed. The first thing she found was a dinner charge, a restaurant called Aria, upscale, in Buckhead, a Tuesday in September. Troy had told her that Tuesday he was eating with his regional manager. Diane remembered it specifically because she had asked if she should expect him by 9, and he had said, "Don't wait up." The charge was $214. For 2. She kept going. October had a hotel, the Lowe's, also in Buckhead. A Thursday night, one of his late Thursdays. The charge ran for 2 nights, checked in on a Thursday and out on a Saturday. That same weekend, Diane had driven her mother to a doctor's appointment. She had texted Troy from the waiting room. He had written back, "Long one tonight, don't worry about me." She sat with that for a moment. Then she kept going. The Charlotte conference was in the statements too. Troy had talked about it for 2 weeks beforehand. A 3-day commercial real estate summit, he said. Networking, panels. He would be staying at the conference hotel with colleagues. He had even named one of them, a man named Garrett, who worked in their Birmingham office. Diane had packed his carry-on bag herself. She had tucked in the small bottle of ibuprofen he always forgot. The charge in the statement was not a conference hotel. It was a boutique hotel in the South End neighborhood of Charlotte, different from the event venue by 4 miles. Checked in for 2 nights, not 3. There was no charge from any conference registration. Diane stared at the screen. She thought about the ibuprofen. She thought about the carry-on bag sitting in their closet right now, with his initials on the zipper pull that she had given him for his birthday 4 years ago. She exhaled through her nose and kept going. Near the bottom of the November statement, she found it. A jewelry charge. A store on Peachtree called Arden and Moss, known for custom pieces. The charge was $480. Diane looked at her hands, at the ring she was still wearing, at the thin gold bracelet she had bought herself last Christmas. Troy had never given her anything from Arden and Moss. She had never received any piece of jewelry from him in November, or near November, or anywhere around that time. She photographed every page of every statement, all 6 months, with her phone. Steady hands, good lighting, no blurs. Then she emailed the files to Ray. He responded within the hour. "Got them. This is good work. Keep your phone on you tonight." He called her that evening. He was calm and direct and covered everything quickly. The hotel documentation alone was significant. The Charlotte discrepancy was useful. The jewelry charge was the kind of detail that told a larger story in a courtroom. He told her to keep doing exactly what she was doing. Document, back up, say nothing. "You're doing everything right," he said. "I know," she said. She meant it. Nikki's apartment was on the east side of the city, on the 3rd floor of a converted building with original hardwood floors and windows that looked out over a row of old oak trees. It smelled like candles and whatever Nikki had last cooked. Diane had been coming here for 11 years, and she had never once sat down in that apartment and felt anything other than safe. Nikki handed her a glass of wine before Diane had even taken off her coat. They sat on the couch together. The lamp was low. Music was playing softly, something without words. Nikki tucked her feet underneath herself and looked at Diane and waited. Diane drank half her glass first. Then she said it, said the thing she had not let herself say out loud until right now. "He called me a liar in front of my sister." Her voice was quiet and even. "In my own kitchen, while he was the one lying." She looked down at her wineglass. "He sat there and ate the food I made, and he looked right at me and said I make things up, because my insecurities are the problem." She paused. He said it like he believed it. Like he had rehearsed it so many times, he actually believed it. Mickey was silent. Her jaw was tight. "I have never lied to that man," Diane said. "Not once. Not about anything." "I know," Mickey said, fierce and quiet and certain. They sat with that for a moment. Then Nikki set her glass down on the coffee table. She turned toward Diane fully, and her voice was direct and clear and serious. "What do you want the end of this to look like?" Diane did not hesitate. "I want everything I contributed returned to me. Every dollar, every asset, everything I put into that life, documented and accounted for." Her voice didn't waver. "I want him to have to look at everything he did, with everyone watching. And I want everyone who heard him call me a liar to understand exactly who was lying." Nikki held her gaze. Then she nodded. Once. Slow. "Okay," she said. "Then let's make sure that's what happens." Diane drove home at 10:30. The streets were quiet. The city lights reflected off the hood of her car in long, soft streaks. She did not call Troy. She did not cry. She came inside, set her keys on the hook by the door, and went to the kitchen table. She opened her laptop. She found her document. She scrolled to the bottom of the list. She added 3 more items. Then she closed the laptop, turned off the kitchen light, and went upstairs to bed. The call came at 11:47 on a Wednesday morning. Diane was at her desk, halfway through a carrier routing review, when her phone lit up with Jada's name. She let it ring twice, then picked up. "I know who she is," Jada said. No greeting, no preamble, just that. Diane set her pen down. "Tell me." "Her name is Brianna Cole. She's a junior associate at Troy's firm. Been there about 2 years." Jada's voice was controlled, but only barely. Diane could hear the effort in it. "I found her on the firm's website. The headshot matched. Same build, same face. It's her." Diane said nothing. She pulled up a blank notes tab on her computer. "There's more," Jada said. "Go ahead." "He's been mentoring her, publicly, like LinkedIn posts about her work, recommending her for a promotion, the whole thing." A brief pause. "And last month, at a firm dinner, he introduced her to one of the senior partners as—" Jada stopped. Diane heard her exhale. "As someone he's close to." The office noise around Diane continued as normal. Someone laughed in the hallway. A printer hummed somewhere to her left. She typed Brianna Cole into her notes tab and stared at it. "He's not hiding her," Diane said. It wasn't a question. "No," Jada said. "He's setting her up. He's building something over there, Diane. While he's still in your house, he is building an entire next life." Diane thought about the Charlotte Hotel, the 4 miles between the conference venue and the boutique hotel he had actually stayed in. She thought about the ibuprofen she had tucked into his bag. "I've got her," Jada said. "Email, firm page, everything. What do you want me to do?" "Send me what you have," Diane said. "I'll take it from here." She did not act immediately. She finished the routing review first. She attended her noon check-in. She ate lunch at her desk, a sandwich she barely tasted, and read through everything Jada sent. Brianna Cole's firm profile was professional and clean. A headshot that matched the footage frame Diane had looked at a dozen times by now. 2 years at the firm, a short bio that mentioned a background in commercial property analytics. She was 28 years old. Diane looked at that detail for a moment. Then she looked away from it. She opened Ray's last email, scrolled past the financial documentation notes. Then she opened her own folder, the one she had been building for weeks, organized the same way she organized everything else. Dated, sourced, retrievable. She found the 3 things she needed. The first was the hotel receipt from the Lowe's. The second was the timeline she had built from the credit card statements and Troy's calendar, cross-referenced, clean, annotated. The third was a text exchange she had found 2 weeks earlier on a shared tablet that still synced to Troy's messages. She had only seen it because she had picked up the tablet to check a grocery list app they both used. The messages had been sitting there, undeleted, like he had simply forgotten the tablet existed. In one of them, Troy had written, "I know it's been slow. I'm almost out. I just need a little more time." Brianna had responded, "I'm trying to be patient. I just need to know this is real." Troy had written back, "It's real. You know it's real." Diane had photographed the tablet screen that same night. Steady hands, good lighting, no blurs. She attached all 3 files to a new email, typed in Brianna's work address, left the subject line blank. Then she typed the body of the message. 6 words. "You should know who you're with." She read it once, then she pressed send. Brianna called 43 minutes later. Diane answered on the second ring. "He told me they were separated." Brianna's voice was tight and high and trying very hard not to break. "He told me it had been over for a long time, that they were just waiting to make it official." Diane listened. She did not interrupt. "I never would have—" Brianna stopped, started again. He told me they were separated. I know he did, Diane said. I'm so sorry. The words came out raw and uneven. I know it doesn't fix anything. I just need you to know that I didn't. I believe you, Diane said quietly. A silence stretched between them, long and uncomfortable and necessary. Then Diane said the one thing she had called for. I'm not asking you to do anything right now, but if the time comes, if someone asks you a direct question about what he told you, about the state of this marriage, I'd appreciate the truth. Brianna was quiet for a moment. Yeah, she said, low and certain. Okay. Diane thanked her and ended the call. She sat with the phone in her hand for a moment. She had not expected to feel anything for Brianna Cole. She had expected to feel nothing, or something close to contempt, or the cold satisfaction of information exchanged cleanly. She felt something else. She wasn't sure what to call it. She set the phone face down on her desk. Then she picked it back up, opened Ray's contact, and began typing. I spoke with Brianna Cole. She'll testify if it comes to that. Call me tonight. The doorbell rang at 6:14 on a Friday evening. Diane was in the kitchen, still in her work clothes, reheating leftover rice. She had not invited anyone. She was not expecting anyone. She looked through the people. Troy stood on the front step, holding a bouquet of pale yellow roses, her favorite, a detail that landed somewhere between thoughtful and calculated. He was dressed in the charcoal blazer he knew she liked. His face was arranged carefully, soft around the eyes, humble at the mouth. He had rehearsed this. Diane recognized it the same way she recognized a forged invoice, not from the content, but from the smoothness of it. Real feelings had edges. This was too clean. She opened the door anyway. Hey, he said. He held out the flowers. Troy. I know I should have called. He looked down briefly, then back up, a practiced beat of contrition. Can I come in? She stepped aside. He set the flowers on the counter. She did not put them in water. She stood near the sink with her arms loosely at her sides and waited. I've been doing a lot of thinking, he said. He moved toward the kitchen table, their kitchen table, and pulled out a chair. He sat down the way you sit in a place that still belongs to you, settled, comfortable. Diane stayed standing. What I did was wrong. He said it plainly, looking directly at her. It was a mistake, a serious one, and it's over. He paused, letting that land. I ended it. The kitchen was quiet. The refrigerator hummed. Outside, a car passed slowly. I love you, Diane. His voice dropped into something lower, something that was supposed to sound like truth. I know I've been distant. I know things have been off between us. But what we have, what we built, I don't want to walk away from that. He pressed his palms flat on the table. I think we can come back from this. I really do, if you're willing. Diane looked at him. She looked at the table he was sitting at, the same table where he had set his fork down 2 weeks ago and called her a liar out loud, without flinching, while Jada sat 3 feet away. She looked at the chair she had been sitting in when the footage played on her laptop screen, and the color left his face. She looked at him. And underneath all of it, underneath everything she knew, and everything she had documented, and everything Ray was building on her behalf, underneath all of that, something pulled. 6 years of mornings, 6 years of inside jokes and arguments, and the specific weight of a person who had been your whole household. It pulled. She would not pretend it didn't. She breathed through it. Thank you for coming, she said. Her voice was even. I mean that. He looked up at her. Something in him relaxed. I need more time, she said, to think, to process everything. I can't make any decisions right now. That's fair. He nodded slowly, like a man receiving grace he knew he didn't deserve. It was a very good performance. Take whatever time you need. I just needed you to know where I stand." He stood. He straightened his jacket. He glanced at the flowers on the counter. "I'll call you," he said. "Okay," she said. She walked him to the door. She stood in the doorway and watched him get into his car. He gave her a small, careful wave through the windshield. She raised her hand in return. Then she closed the door. She stood in the hallway for a moment, still. The house around her was quiet, in the particular way it got when something hollow had just passed through it. Then she picked up her phone and called Ray. He answered on the second ring. "How'd it go?" "He brought flowers," she said. "Told me it was over. Said he loved me and wanted to rebuild." She walked back to the kitchen. "He left thinking he bought himself time." "He doesn't have time," Ray said. His voice was level but tight. "Diane, I found something today. I was going to call you tonight." She stopped walking. "Tell me." 3 months ago, Troy transferred $46,000 out of your joint savings into a private account, just under the threshold that triggers automatic bank review. A pause. "He's been building a runway. When he leaves, he was going to leave you with significantly less than your fair share." The room didn't spin. Nothing dramatic happened. She simply stood there and felt the full shape of it settle into place. The affair, the preemptive prenuptial questions, the narrative he had been seeding about her instability. And now, this. It was never just an affair. It was an exit strategy, built in stages, funded quietly, designed to leave her with nothing she couldn't argue for in a room full of people who had already heard he was a liar. "Move everything forward," she said. "Already on it," Ray said. That night, Diane took the black dress from the back of her closet, set up the ironing board in the bedroom, and pressed it slowly and carefully from hem to collar. Her hands were steady the entire time. Diane heard the car pull up at 7:42 a.m. She was already dressed, already had the coffee going. She had expected Celeste at 8, but Celeste had always been early to things that made her nervous. Diane wiped down the counter, walked to the front door, and opened it before Celeste could knock. Troy's mother stood on the front step in a tan wool coat with her purse held in both hands. She was 62 years old and had the kind of posture that came from a lifetime of holding herself together by will alone. Her eyes moved over Diane's face quickly, reading something, measuring something, and then she looked down. "I know I'm early," Celeste said. "It's fine," Diane said. "Come in." Diane poured 2 cups and set them on the kitchen table. No cream, 1 sugar. She still remembered how Celeste took it. She sat down across from her in the same chair she always sat in, the same chair she had been sitting in the night Troy set his fork down and said what he said. Celeste wrapped both hands around her mug and looked around the kitchen the way people do when they are avoiding eye contact with the thing they came for. Then she looked at Diane. "He told me you'd been making things up," she said. Her voice was careful. "That you were paranoid, that you were—" She stopped. "He used the word unstable." Diane nodded. "I know he did." Celeste's jaw tightened slightly. She looked down at her coffee. "I called 3 people," she said quietly, "in the family. I told them what he told me." "I know that too," Diane said. There was no accusation in it, just the plain shape of what had happened, laid out where they could both see it. Celeste looked up. "I want to hear it from you, all of it." So Diane told her. She did not bring a folder. She did not pull up anything on her phone. She simply sat across from the woman who had raised the man she married and told the truth from the beginning. She told her about the security system, the one Troy had insisted they install after the break-in 2 houses down. She told her about the motion alert, the cloud archive, the footage. A car Diane didn't recognize, a woman stepping out, 4 minutes at the side door. She told her about the credit card statements, the hotel in Buckhead, the Charlotte conference that wasn't a conference, the jewelry charge for something Diane never received. She told her about Ray's phone call, that 2 weeks before Diane knew anything was wrong, Troy had approached her attorney friend to ask, casually, like it was nothing, how ironclad a prenuptial agreement really was. She told her about the savings account, $46,000, moved quietly, timed carefully to stay under the review threshold. And she told her about Brianna. That Troy had told this young woman, plainly, repeatedly, that he and Diane were already separated, that the marriage was effectively over, that he was almost out. Diane said it without heat, just the fact of it and what it meant. He had not stumbled into something, he had been constructing something. Celeste had not moved. Diane looked at her directly. "And then," she said, "he sat right here, at this table, and told me I was a liar. Out loud, in front of my sister. He said I was making things up, that my insecurities were the problem." She paused. "He said it like he believed it. He said it like he had every right to." The kitchen was very quiet. Celeste set her mug down. Her hands stayed flat on the table, pressing into the wood like she needed something solid beneath her. Diane watched her. She did not fill the silence. Celeste was a woman who had built her entire sense of herself as a mother on the image of who her son was. She had repeated his version of Diane to 3 people without a single question. She had done it not out of cruelty, but out of a lifetime habit. Protect him first, understand later. Now she understood. It moved across her face slowly, not all at once. It was the look of someone who cannot unknow a thing, and who is just beginning to feel the full weight of what they chose not to see before. She did not make excuses. She did not say, "But he's my son," or "I'm sure he was scared," or any of the other softening things a mother might reach for. She just sat with it. After a long moment, she raised her eyes to Diane's. They were steady, but something in them had shifted. A door had opened and couldn't be closed. "What do you need from me?" she asked. Diane's answer was quiet and exact. "Tell the truth when you're asked." Celeste nodded once. They did not hug. They did not need to. Ray sent the formal signal on a Wednesday morning, 72 pages, tabbed, indexed, and delivered to Troy's attorney's office by 9 a.m. Diane knew about it because Ray texted her a single word when it was done: sent. She read it at her desk at work and went back to her spreadsheet. Troy called her that afternoon. She let it go to voicemail. Then she listened to it once, standing in the parking garage before she drove home. His voice was controlled, but thinner than usual. He said he wanted to talk before things went further. He said they owed each other that much. He said he didn't want it to end like this. Diane deleted the message and called Ray. "He wants a conversation," she said. "I heard from his attorney an hour ago," Ray said. "Same request. They're rattled." "Good." She unlocked her car. "Set it up. My house. You and Jada are there." Ray paused. "You sure you want to do it in person?" "Yes," she said. "I want him to have to sit across from me in my kitchen." Ray said he'd handle it. Troy arrived on a Saturday at 2 p.m. Diane heard his car in the driveway from the kitchen. She did not go to the door. She heard Jada open it, heard the brief, flat exchange of a greeting that was not a greeting, and then Troy walked in. He was dressed well. Dark jacket, no tie. His face was arranged into something that was almost composed. Almost. There were shadows under his eyes that weren't usually there. He looked at Diane first, then at Ray, standing near the counter with a leather portfolio in his hand, then at Jada, sitting at the far end of the table with her arms folded and her jaw set. He pulled out a chair and sat down. "I appreciate you doing this," he said. Diane looked at him. "Sit wherever you're comfortable." He was already seated. He adjusted slightly, recognizing what she meant. He had no power here to offer or to grant. Diane opened the folder in front of her. "I'm going to walk you through what we have," she said. "You don't have to say anything." She walked him through the footage first. She did not play it. She described it with the same precision she used at work when she was documenting a failed process: dates, timestamps, duration. Troy's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Then the financials. Ray took over briefly, setting a printed summary in front of Troy and naming the amounts plainly. The hotel in Buckhead, the Charlotte weekend, the jewelry charge, and then the transferred savings. $46,000 moved in a single transfer 3 months ago, time to slide under the automatic review threshold. Troy looked at the summary. Something flickered across his face. He opened his mouth. "That account," he started, "is documented," Ray said. He did not raise his voice. He did not need to. Troy closed his mouth. Diane picked up the next page. "Brianna Cole provided a written statement," she said. She did not look up. She just read it. Brianna's words, in Brianna's handwriting, signed at the bottom. The things Troy had told her. That the marriage was over. That he was almost out. That Diane had checked out years ago. By the time Diane finished reading, Troy's hands were flat on the table. "That's her version," he said. His voice was still even, but it had lost its shape. She misunderstood things." "She wrote it down," Diane said. "She misunderstood." Jada made a small sound. Not a word, just a breath through her nose that said everything. Diane looked at Troy directly. "Your mother is prepared to confirm that you told her I was unstable, that I was a liar, that I was making things up." She let that settle. She told 3 family members the same thing. She will tell the truth about that when she's asked. Troy stared at her. For just a moment, just one, she saw the version of his face she had never been meant to see. The stripped-down version. The one without the charm or the performance or the careful control. Then he leaned forward. "Diane," his voice dropped. "We built this together. 6 years. You know who I am. All of this," he gestured at the folder, at Ray, at the room. "This isn't you. You're doing this because you're angry. That's it. You're angry and you're—" "I wasn't angry," she said it quietly. Troy stopped. "You sat in this kitchen," Diane said, "and called me a liar. In front of my sister, while the woman you brought to our home was still in your phone contacts." She looked at him with steady, clear eyes. "I wasn't angry that night. I was building this." She touched the folder. "I've been paying attention our entire marriage. You just decided that didn't count for anything." She slid the divorce papers across the table. Troy looked down at them. The room was completely still. He picked them up. He stood. He did not say anything else. He walked through the kitchen, past Jada, past Ray, and out the front door. The door didn't slam. It just closed. Diane did not move. Ray set his portfolio down on the counter, quietly. Jada unfolded her arms and let her hands rest on the table. Nobody spoke for a long time. The last box wasn't heavy. It had some books, a framed photo of her and Jada from years back, and a small ceramic bowl she'd bought herself the winter before everything fell apart. She carried it through the front door of her new apartment on a Saturday morning in October, set it on the kitchen counter, and stood still for a moment. Light came through the windows at an angle she had specifically chosen, south-facing. She had stood in this empty apartment for 12 minutes before she signed anything, watching where the light landed. The hardwood floors, the clean white walls, the view of the tree line past the parking lot, amber and orange and deep red in the October morning air. She had chosen all of it. Every single piece. The promotion came through in the spring. Senior Director of Operations. Her name on the official announcement, her title in the email signature. The raise was significant enough that Ray had reviewed the offer letter with her just to make sure they were giving her what she was actually worth. They were. Barely. She took it. The settlement had been finalized 2 months before that. Ray had made sure the transferred $46,000 came back with penalties attached. Numbers that Troy's attorney had initially pushed back on and then, quietly, stopped pushing back on. The full picture of what Troy had done, documented across 72 pages, made a lot of things stop being worth arguing about. Troy left his firm in June. He hadn't been fired, technically, but the industry was smaller than he'd imagined, and the right people had come to know the right things through the appropriate channels. There was no dramatic ending to that part of the story. Just a man finding out that a reputation, once cracked, doesn't hold weight the same way. Diane heard about it through Ray. She did not spend much time thinking about it. Brianna's note arrived in late summer. 1 page, handwritten, no return address. It did not ask for anything. It did not explain itself at length. It said that she was sorry for her part in it, that she understood now the full shape of what Troy had constructed around both of them, and that she had left the firm on her own terms in April. She said she hoped Diane was well. That was all. Diane read it once, standing at her kitchen counter with her morning coffee. Then she folded it, set it down, and finished her coffee. She did not respond. She didn't need to. Celeste called on Diane's birthday, the first one after the divorce was finalized. The call came at 8:47 in the morning. Diane saw the name on the screen and hesitated for exactly 1 second. Then she answered. "Happy birthday, Diane," Celeste said. Her voice was careful and quiet, smaller than usual. "Thank you, Celeste." A brief silence, not uncomfortable exactly, more like two people standing in a room together for the first time after having rearranged all the furniture. "I'm not calling to explain anything," Celeste said. "I just wanted to say it." Diane looked out her window at the tree line. "I'm glad you did." They talked for 9 minutes. Nothing heavy, small things, Celeste's garden, Diane's new neighborhood, a book they had both apparently read. When they hung up, Diane sat with the feeling for a moment. It was small, that relationship, honest and small and careful, but it was real in a way it had never quite been before. Celeste was no longer protecting a version of her son. Diane was no longer performing warmth she didn't feel. What was left between them was just the truth, and the truth, it turned out, was enough to build something quiet on. Jada threw the birthday dinner on Saturday night. 8 people around a table at Jada's apartment, which smelled like garlic and good candles. Nikki arrived 30 minutes late with 2 bottles of wine that were clearly above the occasion's price range and completely appropriate. She set them on the table without apology. "I bought good wine," she said. "You're welcome." Ray gave the toast. He stood up near the end of the meal and held his glass and said a lot of things. Some of them funny, some of them true, most of them both at once. He talked about Diane the way someone talks about a person they have genuinely watched and genuinely seen. He did not mention Troy by name. He did not need to. He finished with, "The smartest thing you ever did was stop explaining yourself to people who weren't listening. The second smartest thing was calling me." Everyone laughed. Jada cried. She would later claim she didn't. The morning after the dinner, Diane woke early. Her new kitchen was smaller than the old one. The table was different, wood instead of marble, her choice from a shop she'd walked into alone one Sunday. The coffee maker was the same one she had taken from the house. Some things you keep. She sat down with her mug, opened her laptop, and pulled up her 7 a.m. prep files. There was a routing error in the overnight logistics report, a 6-figure discrepancy that had moved quietly through the system and landed without anyone flagging it. 3 men on her team had reviewed the same file. She found it in 4 minutes. She corrected it, documented it, and sent the summary to her manager before 8 a.m. Then she sat back, wrapped both hands around her mug, and looked out the window at the morning light coming through the glass. She was exactly who she had always been. Nobody in her life would ever call her a liar again, and mean a single thing by it at all. Thank you for watching until the end. If this story meant something to you, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. I've got 2 stories on the screen that you have to watch next. Have a great day!